Good morning. Welcome to another Light for the Journey. We're still working on Paul's letter to the Corinthians, and we have come to the passage that says, "Love never fails." Where there are prophecies, they will cease. Where there are tongues, they will be stilled. Where there is knowledge, it will pass away. So I think it's important to remember that Paul was writing to a church who was fighting, arguing about who was most important and what gifts were more important than and who should take leadership because they have this gift and skill and things. That's why later we hear the passage about all of the different parts of the body and each of the gifts are needed and you all have to work together, get it together. And what he is reminding us here is that while all of these gifts are important, prophecy, gifts of tongues, knowledge, wisdom, all of those things, those are really, really important. But in the end, all that matters is love, love that never ceases. There is a 19th century humorist. His name is Josh Billings. He was a contemporary of Mark Twain. And I have a great quote from him. He was actually he wrote a poem that used the phrase, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. And so where that saying comes from. Anyway, Josh Billings. But he has a quote that says, "Love looks through a telescope, envy a microscope." Paul talks about envy a little earlier in the passage, and I think this image of love, of God seeing the big picture, the long view of us, of the world, of human history, is lovely, and but that envy looks through a microscope and looks for those sins, those flaws, those unforgivable things that people do, and that we get wrathful about and angry and that kind of thing. And so I just think that's a really lovely image, and I think it reminds us in our day-to-day interactions with people to see that long view, that telescopic pull back, big picture of our life, of the world, but of other people as well. The big picture of who they are becoming, what history in their past has made them who they are, and see that with some grace and forgiveness. But then it got even more interesting when a friend of mine sent me a picture, and it was a link to a TED Talk. Someone took some human ashes, some cremains, and looked at those under a microscope. And it looks like a star nebula. It's fascinating and really, really beautiful. It looks like something from the Hubble telescope that, this expansive, it glistens. So that takes me back to this idea that love never ends. Love never fails in both the big and the small. Human envy, human emotions, human anger, we see in that myopic way, but that God is present in both the big and the microscopic. So I hope that gives you a little hope in your journey. I hope that you have a wonderful day. Thanks.